Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Kelly, and today I have Elizabeth Wolfrey from Wolfrey Music Studio. We are going to be talking about how she grew her studio, escaped the scramble, improved her work-life balance, and then tripled her studio revenue. So it's kind of been a wild few months. This is an exciting one. A lot to cover. But before we go any further, Elizabeth, I would love to just have you introduce yourself and the studio and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Elizabeth Wolfrey. I am currently living in the Central Valley of California in Merced, so a small little rural town. We moved here about 3 years ago. I was finishing my doctorate in Oklahoma, and my partner was just hired at the UC. And so I had taught a little bit in Oklahoma and then was moving out here and just basically starting fresh, building a studio from scratch as I was finishing the dissertation phase of my doctorate. And now we've been here about 3 years. I teach at the local community college that actually has a music department and a music major. And so I adjunct there. I teach a few classes. And then primarily, I also am running my own private music studio where I teach flute and piano lessons out of my house. And then I go to one of the high schools up in Ceres and teach in their band room once a week and teach all of their flute students just right in a row.
Awesome. I know when we met last summer, we had all these things on our plate. We were trying to juggle all of it, but it was very stressful.
Yeah.
So give us like a little overview of what that looked like in your schedule and what some of those stresses were. I know we were talking about a lot of them this morning already, but what were some of the things that were really kind of bothering you about the current studio situation?
So because I'm a portfolio musician, I'm
as most of us
as
are
most of us are, right? That's how a lot of us make our living. And so I serve on the board of the Merced Symphony, and I also play principal flute with the Merced Symphony, and then I do orchestra subbing gigs up and down the 99, and then I was doing my private lessons and then adjuncting. But the big thing that was adding to the craziness was I was doing a lot of travel lessons, which look, I love travel lessons. I do. And maybe if that were the only thing that I were doing each week, it would have been more sustainable. But
definitely,
it was such a time suck. And then I had way fewer students because I was traveling so much. I couldn't fit nearly as many into my time. And then with all of the adjuncting, I was getting really behind on grading. And so it was just, I was constantly scrambling. I was constantly running around town, and Merced is a great place to do travel lessons. It's, 15 minutes to get across town, even on a bad day. But it's still, when you're giving yourself that much time in between lessons and just running from one place to the next. And I just feel like I wasn't able to present my best self professionally because I was just so run down from, running to campus in the morning to teach, running home to take care of the dogs, then running back out and traveling to 5 more lessons that evening. And so I was still teaching, 8 lessons a day, but just, it's so much more taxing just mentally and physically when you have to get in your car and drive to each of these places and then, doing meals in the car and running and grabbing coffee and that sort of thing. And so I was just scrambling so much. And again, really just not feeling like I was able to present myself and prepare for everyone in the best way that I know how and the best way that I know I can.
Well, that task switching that you're talking about, like that having to, when you're balancing so many things and juggling so many things, again, as a lot of portfolio musicians do, as a lot of musicians do in general, it's so hard to be fully present because you're thinking about the fact that let's say in a lesson, you have to pack up and hightail it out of there to get to the next one.
Yep.
And then if you're late to that one, it sets everything else back. And it's so stressful that you're like watching the clock and you're, like you said, you're not necessarily your best self. You're not fully mentally present because there's just so many other things going on in your brain. So having, and not to detract from travel lessons, because as you said, I think they can be a great solution. Like sometimes working in the student's home environment is a great way to support them and support unique challenges that they might be experiencing in their own practice and things like that as well. So there are great advantages financially and also from a student progress standpoint to the travel lessons. But it does come with other hiccups, obviously, which for some teachers are not as prominent. But of course, if this is not the only thing you're doing,
right,
that's a problem. That's a big problem, big issue. So makes so much sense why that was feeling overwhelming. And when we were talking about what we wanted to call this interview, and you mentioned the scramble right
Hmm.
away, I just thought that was like the perfect way to describe the like chaotic nature of life at that
It
point.
really,
Because
yeah.
yeah, and you just get so much more easily overwhelmed too. And that
Hmm.
was something that I think you were definitely experiencing. Like you said, like feeling behind and
Yep.
feeling overwhelmed by what we were working on. It's wild. Also inhibiting studio growth. I remember at that point we
Hmm.
were talking about where we fit this work in,
Right.
and there wasn't a whole lot of leftover time
Hmm.
to put the work in because we are overwhelmed. So
Yep.
tell me a little bit more about that balance and how we figured out where to kind of slide these little bits of work and change into the studio to make some improvements.
Yeah. So, one of the things was I'm only an adjunct at the college, so I stopped taking on extra stuff. I don't get compensated for it. So, as nice as it is, as much as I know my students appreciate the support of me being at all of these extra things and extra classes and coming in and doing these things, I had to really draw a line and say, no, I'm really sorry. Like I would if I were full
Yeah.
time here, if I were being more fairly compensated for my time and expertise, then absolutely. But as of right now, that's just not the commitment that the university is making to me. So I can't
Yeah.
make that commitment back. So that was one thing.
Which is so fair and
Oh
also
yeah.
so challenging to do
Yeah.
because there's like peer pressure around that too,
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately, of like, well, of course you're going to be at that concert. Of course you're going to do this
Hmm.
activity. You're like, yeah, but you get paid full time and
Yeah.
I
Uh
don't.
huh.
That's
Exactly.
really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then so that contributed. And then also, I think just accommodating the traveling within my schedule and all of those
Yeah.
logistics. And so I just think about my Thursdays where I had a pair of students, and it was really nice because it was a sibling pair that I was traveling to. But it took me 25 to 30 minutes to drive to their house on rural roads. And
Mm.
like one day I blew out a tire on my way there. And so, and then the next week, like I was replacing all of my tires. So it just, yeah. And so like the wear and tear on my vehicle was a thing. And then also like, since I was driving an hour to teach an hour, that was taking 2 hours out of my schedule. And then just like, it was a stressful drive. And
Yeah.
after a day where I'd already taught at the college, and so then I would be rushing home to get to another lesson that I was teaching out of my house. And then, so that's only 3 lessons that afternoon. And by the end of that, like I was just so exhausted, burnt out, stressed from doing that long drive on terrible roads. And I it just like it seemed so silly to me. And I was always so angry driving to and
Mm.
from that lesson because I knew that I wasn't being fairly compensated for my time and expertise.
Yep.
And I was just like, and I was so fed up and I was like, this is not sustainable. I can't do this. And like the students,
Yeah.
absolutely lovely, love them, absolutely love them, but it just like it wasn't fair to them for me to be walking into these lessons just like I just spent half an hour driving. I'm starving. This has been the longest day. I could have taught
Yeah.
a lesson in that time and made money instead of spent money to come out here. And then I would be cranky driving home, trying to desperately make it in time for my next student. And then I'd really only have it in me to do one more student. And then it's like, I have to be done for the day because
Yeah.
mentally I'm just wiped out.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of a snapshot of a few things that were kind of going on that I was just like, I can't keep doing this. It's not sustainable. And so kind of altering those big things of really just realizing where a lot of extra time during my week was going. And I think when we started this program too, you had asked me to kind of break down all of like where I was spending time and stuff. And that was when I really kind of fully realized just like how much time was
Mm.
going into traveling for these lessons, how much extra time I was spending at the college that I wasn't getting compensated for, how much, time was spent doing, X, Y, and Z that was not really contributing all that much to what I was doing and what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah. And on top of that too, like you got these schedule stresses,
Mm-hmm.
but when you feel so busy and then the results don't match the input of work and
Right.
energy and effort that you're
Uh-huh.
doing, it's so deflating.
It is,
Like
yeah.
you're working a full-time job plus in
Hmm.
the hours and the energy that you're putting in. But at the end of the month when the bills are due
Right.
and the revenue doesn't match the work that
Hmm.
you're putting in, like crummy feeling, to
Yeah.
be totally candid.
Yes. Hmm.
And so having the studio growth was really important. I know one of the first things that we did was we tried to remove the travel lessons
Yep.
and shift everybody, which was terrifying.
It was.
That was a scary decision, I know.
I really thought I was going to lose like 6 or 7 students to that.
Yeah.
But thankfully I only lost one. So
That's incredible.
yeah.
And also such a strong testament to who you are as a teacher, the relationships that you built with your
Hmm.
students, the rapport that you built with them, and the value that they see in the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
which is so impactful
Hmm.
to, I mean, obviously like our confidence as an instructor, but also when you're going and you're talking to new students and you're out there promoting yourself and marketing
Hmm.
yourself, and you just got that huge vote of confidence from your current students that like,
Yep.
yeah, we really like you and we like you enough to
Hmm.
take on that half an hour drive each way.
Right.
Amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Amazing
Oh,
feeling.
exactly. Hmm.
So obviously we made those shifts. To just kind of like recap, we made some adjustments to your adjunct schedule and where we were spending time. We removed the travel lessons,
Yep.
and then we also had a little rate increase in early January. Those were some of the big changes that we did in the studio
Yep.
initially to kind of kick things off.
Yep. Oh, and then we went to the
How are things?
year-round flat rate tuition.
Yes.
Because I had been doing, because what I had been doing, I think I was doing 16 weeks for like mid-August to December to overlap with the academic calendar. And then I think my
kind of like a semester.
Yeah, and then my spring was like 18 weeks, and then summer I was doing packages of about like 8 weeks. And so I'm trying to think of all the numbers that I just said. So I said 16, 18, 8. So that's 42 lessons a year. And so that was just like, I ended up doing a lot of makeups, especially like when we got closer to the end of those 16-week periods. And like sometimes I would just prorate like the summer or the next semester or whatever, just to accommodate if somebody missed a lot of lessons. And it was really difficult to keep track of. And at the time I was using my music staff, and it was not helping keep track of those things very well at all. And so, yeah, the moving to a year-round, just flat rate every month really has simplified things.
And that shift of the year-round flat rate, okay, so we're talking about some of these stressors. The instability of revenue, I know, was a big one.
Yes.
That we had students that, as you said, like we were prorating things or we're trying to make accommodations for them. So the revenue is doing this all the time, and the schedule stinks. So it's all compounding in the stress. How has the flat rate tuition impacted the stability of your revenue?
It's made things a lot easier. I did have a wrench thrown in because I had jury duty for a couple of weeks. And and that was
okay, sorry. One quick note. That was a long jury duty.
It was a long jury duty, yeah. And I got lucky because it absolutely they resolved the case before we even went to deliberations. But we were looking at probably another like 3 days of trial before we got to deliberations when they dismissed us. So jury duty threw a big wrench in things. And then while I was doing jury duty, I was also playing in the pit for In the Heights. And so I ended up having to cancel like 2 or 3 weeks worth of lessons to accommodate that. And that I wasn't expecting at the beginning of the year when I made my plan. And so I did actually offer makeups for all of those lessons so that I could still take off my planned breaks over the summer and at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. But it's still way fewer makeups than I was doing before. And I've also like streamlined that process a lot. Now they sign up for makeups on Calendly, where I have a bunch of makeup slots in all the in-between zones, and they just go in, they cancel their lesson themselves on funds, and then they go to Calendly, they sign up for a makeup lesson, and then in the little note on Calendly, they say, this is a makeup I'm signing up for a canceled lesson on whatever date, 3/25, whatever it was.
So you're not going back and forth 87
So
times on email trying to
right,
figure out when
yeah.
that's going to happen.
And then I'm able to go in, and when I add another lesson to fonts, I can say make up for X date, so that when I'm going in and making sure that all of the billing and everything is correct, it's like, okay, they actually, yeah, they did get 44 lessons that year.
Yeah.
So that's streamlined a lot. It's also just, yeah, predictable. Switching to fonts was really great. So now, I was doing like the Venmo business before, but I was doing a really bad job of making sure that everybody was paying on time. And so it was like at the end of the semester, I would go in and I would like go through, because I was keeping track by hand of attendance and lessons. And so then I was like, okay, did they pay for all of their lessons, or do I owe them lessons? And so it was always kind of at the end of that 16 weeks, I would have to sit down and I'd have a sheet of paper for every student. And then I'm like looking on my phone, scrolling through like, okay, did this parent pay? Okay, they paid January, but I don't see another payment until May. And so now Fonz does all of that for me, and they're all on auto pay, and I don't have to think about it.
So helpful.
Yes.
Well, and it's wild how much that admin work. Like when we don't have a lot of students, I know when we first started, studio, of course, was a little bit smaller because there was a lot going on. We were doing the driving,
right?
Couldn't fit as many students in, and at that point, even with a smaller number of students, it's easy to look at maybe like an expense, like taking on studio management software or even paying some of the credit card fees and think, oh, that's just not worthwhile,
right?
Because I can do it all on paper, like you were. And then you start to make some of these changes, and it's shocking how much not only time and energy, but like mental space it frees up when things just happen for you. When a software program is running your billing and your scheduling, and you don't have to track all those things down, all of a sudden doing a little bit more marketing or taking on another student doesn't feel as stressful.
Yep.
It's kind of a wild experience, you know?
Yeah.
And that growth, I think, was really important for you too. Having some of that stability.
Yes.
Like the work
very much
balance,
so.
I think that was a big factor.
Yeah. And like the business end of things, I had felt really, really insecure about. I feel a lot better about it now. There's still like some of it where I'm like starting to think, okay, I need to kind of like increase the size and find like an accountant to kind of help me get settled and all that sort of thing. And really get organized with that. But just like,
but even going to an accountant when you have things more organized is also less scary.
Right. And that's part of it, of just like, I was a little bit embarrassed last year to try and seek out an accountant's help because all of my records were just kind of disastrous. I'm like, okay, well, I have all these Venmo transactions. Is this helpful?
Yeah. And I mean, it makes so much sense. Like that is not something like, should you be embarrassed about that? Absolutely not.
Right.
Also,
right.
We don't envision ourselves as business owners.
Right.
Like, it just means I just want to play my clarinet. I just want to play the flute. Like it's not, how did I get myself to the situation where now all of a sudden, like I'm a business owner and I have to like, file taxes, which I mean, everyone has to file taxes.
Right.
When it comes to the business and deduction.
Right. And the self-employment taxes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. I totally get that. So I'm glad that things are improved there.
Yeah.
Like extra confidence. That means a lot. That's so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what other ways has having this stability? Okay, studio has grown. Revenue has grown by about three times, which is really exciting. And a great statement again of like the value that you're providing to your students and the service that you're offering.
Yeah.
We made room for that by removing the travel lessons and kind of reworking the schedule a little bit. What other areas of your life or in what other ways have things been impacted by the changes that we made to the studio?
I mean, I just have more time to relax, to just chill out, to, go outside with the dogs and play fetch and water the garden and prune the gigantic tomato plants because I live in the Central Valley of California and tomatoes grow like weeds. It's insane.
Yeah, we don't have that problem in Wisconsin. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Virginia and my mom would get like, I don't know, maybe half a dozen tomatoes over the summer. And last year I was like picking cherry tomatoes through November. So yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's insane. Like it is the Central Valley. It is not me. I am not doing anything aside from just like watering the stuff. It just grows. It just does the thing.
Oh my God.
So yeah, just like spending a lot more time and spending more time with Caleb and and spending more time in the garden and with the dogs. So I just having a little bit more leisure time and not feeling like, I'm chained to my desk and having to catch up on grading for a couple hours after I've, spent all day teaching, and then not driving as much is nice. And it just, yeah, I feel so much more like relaxed and at this nice like equilibrium uh, than I did previously. And yeah, and then also just like obviously the financial security that brings when you triple your revenue. And so it feels very much like, I think before it's you don't want to factor in taxes because when you're only bringing in $1,100 before taxes, and then you're like, oh no. And so it's like that's not a lot of money, and then you throw in taxes of like, okay, well, I'm putting basically 30% of that away, and then there's really not that much left over to live off of. And so just having more financial security and not having that. I know we talked earlier, I don't think it made it into the recording, but like being able to pay off some credit card debt that I had accumulated during grad school. And so just like escaping the scramble, not just in terms of like the literal scramble of day to day running around from one place to another, but just like the mental scramble of how am I going to keep things together? Like, am I making enough money to really contribute to the household? And like, is that revenue going to always be there? And like, if I lose a student, is that going to really make or break me? And so everything feels a lot less high stakes, which is really nice.
Well, and that not only is it mentally exhausting, it's mentally heavy.
Yes.
Like when you feel behind. I mean, okay, we were talking about this before we hit record as well. Like cards on the table, I've been there. Like you get out of grad school and like, okay, yeah, we've got student loans, but also there were cost of living things sometimes that we're having to figure out. And when that debt or that like feeling of being behind is looming over you, it's wild how much that can put a damper on all of your other activity and energy. It just kind of sucks you dry a little bit. And so when you get into that chapter where, as we're talking about like paying off some of the debt and how good that feels to not feel so behind all the time and like feel like you're contributing. And then I know we were also talking this morning, like opening an investment account,
right?
And, like, putting away for retirement and like having a plan for the future and some of the things that, we were joking a little bit before we hit record about, some of our teachers when we were kids. I remember distinctly looking at some of my instructors and they taught until they were in their 80s, because unfortunately that's what we had to do. And so having a situation in a system where you can start to plan ahead a little bit for what comes next and a different season of life is also really exciting too. Feels really dang good.
Yeah.
When you finally get to that point, right? Like grad school, me never thought that was gonna be possible. I think you probably had some of those thoughts too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like earlier today, just listening to a podcast at all about buying a house. Like I remember 5 years ago, just being like, wow, I'm never going to be able to own a house. That's ridiculous. Like, why? How could I ever make enough money to pay off all of my debt and then, be able to afford a mortgage and all of the things that go into owning a house? And like, and now I'm just like, I think that could be a possibility. Like, I'm finally able to save some money, and that feels really good. And so, yeah, financial freedom, man.
Makes me so happy to hear. Oh, makes me so happy to hear. Well, and it's wild too, like that heaviness that we're talking about when you are feeling behind. When you overcome that, I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but it used to feel so guilt-inducing for me to do something for fun. Like to take the time off and go be in your garden, or like for me sometimes it's like baking something or reading a book. Like I felt guilty doing that because I should be working. Like I should be solving this looming problem that I'm dealing with, but there's no time or like energy to like turn it off for a little while. When you have that stability, it's amazing how all of a sudden your leisure time actually feels rejuvenating and relaxing.
Right. Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll have a weekend off and I'll still choose to work because it's fun, as opposed to like forcing myself to work because I felt guilty or or something along those lines.
Absolutely. Yeah. I used to be one of those very, very busybodies of like, I always have to be working. I always have to be doing something to improve myself and improve my situation and yada, yada, yada. And now I'm just kind of like, there's this really, really good Kurt Vonnegut quote about, I think it's from God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. But essentially it boils down to like, the quote is like, he's going out to buy stamps, and his wife is like, why don't you just order stamps? And he's like, but then I wouldn't get the pleasure of walking down the street and seeing the flowers in bloom and seeing the kids play and getting to talk to the postman at the post office. And like, we're born and put on this earth to fart around. And so I'm like, I want to do more of the dilly dallying. Like I want to go spend time in my garden, and like, I love playing flute. I love playing piano. I love being a musician, and I love teaching, but also I want to sit outside and drink a cup of coffee and admire the plants and the flowers that haven't been eaten by the earwigs. So I want to fart around more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh. And it is wild, that like shift that happens. I think this is something that I've experienced a little bit more recently myself too in the past couple of years. And looking back on that, I think sometimes when I was working all the time, like trying to play that catch up, and this might be different for you. So of course, please feel free to correct me, but it felt a lot of the times like I was doing stuff all the time. Like I was so busy and I was so productive. In retrospect, so much of that time was like working. Like I was sitting in front of my computer, and I honestly, a lot of that time was like just energy trying to figure out what I should be doing, because I didn't always know.
Right.
And when you're on the other side of that and you have that, of course, hindsight's 2020, right? But looking back on that, that was not effective and efficient. And honestly, rest would have been more effective and efficient for me, so that I could have been more productive with the time that I was allocated.
The quality of everything that I do now is just so much higher, just because I have so much more time to rest and be a person and turn things off and, you know, play a video game or go out and play with the dogs, or, you know, go buy way more plants than I need.
Always a challenge. Well, and finding that contentment is so important.
Yeah.
I think, in teaching, because then when you show up to those students, as you were talking about before, like you're so stressed and you're so overwhelmed, and you show up and like you might not be the best version of you in every single moment. Of course, that's always going to vary, but I feel like when life outside of teaching is more fulfilling and calm and happy in the ways that we can control it, then our teaching selves are also a lot more present and fulfilled and effective in the communicating that we're doing as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, gosh, this makes me so happy to hear. I'm so excited for you. It's so good.
I'm excited for me too.
Gosh. Oh, just to see the studio growth. And we said this a couple months ago. You and I had a call. Oh, I want to say it was like 2.5 months ago. We checked in, and one of the very first things that you said was, I just feel like a different person. Like I can't tell you how much that's changed. And that change is so evident. Even as we're talking, right? Like you're just so calm, cool, and collected, and so chill and so happy. And it just makes me so happy to see that like outward reflection of not only the work that you did, but also like the internal work around some of that. Because it's not just the business. A lot of times our business is a reflection of who we are as people. We're independent business owners. So seeing that change in you has just been so exciting. So exciting. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's like talk a little bit about just the work together. Obviously, you joined Outside the Box Scale. That is something that we've been using a lot to grow the studio. How did you make that decision? What made that decision for you, or what factors were really important to you?
I mean, I sort of felt like going into it, I don't know. I'm going to use a plant, and I've been gardening a lot, if you can't tell.
I'm loving the plant stories. Keep them coming. This is awesome.
It's a new thing for me since moving to California. But so I think of like, you plant a seed, and sometimes like, and I've been planting seeds, and some of them sprout, some of them do not. But I think if you've ever grown like a zucchini or a cucumber from seed, and the way they grow, it's ridiculous. Because like you can see just like, you can literally see how much they have grown between like when you get up in the morning and then when like in the evening. It's wild. They grow so fast. And I felt very much like I was kind of like a seedling, and I had sprouted, but I was like really weighed down by all of like the dirt and the mulch. that was on top of me. And I was trying so hard to like break through that of like, I know I can be this big, beautiful plant and have, you know, grow all these fruits and flowers and whatnot. But I just can't. I got to get through the dirt. I got to get through the dirt.
Mm.
And so much of that dirt that was weighing me down was just like, how do I run a business? How do I keep things organized? How much do I charge? Where am I going to teach? Who am I going to teach? How am I going to get those students? Am I getting, you know, like, do I have enough to the point where like I can grow and continue to grow? Am I creating this environment in which I can, you know, really flourish? And it was just like, I'm like, I know I have all of these skills and I know I can do this thing. And right now I'm just this tiny little thing, but I know that if I just push through a little bit further, I'll break through into really feeling good about this and feeling, you know, like a businesswoman and feeling more confident in all of those arenas. And so, and just talking to you, I might have responded to, I don't remember what you had posted, but I think I had responded to like Instagram, and you invited me to a one-on-one, and it was just like a 15-minute chat. And at the time, I don't even think I was like really thinking about like outside the box at all. Like I wasn't even thinking about enrolling in your program. I only kind of just like, I had enjoyed all your videos and like related to them a lot. And
Thank you.
and so then like we were chatting, and I was just kind of having all these realizations of like, okay, no, this is a possibility. I had done one training program years prior, back in I think 2016, 2017, and that kind of really got things off the ground. But I was really kind of yearning to kick it up a notch, and the way that you had presented outside the box, and like how like, yeah, we are going to talk about recruitment and bringing in more students, but then like I felt like I wasn't having trouble getting the students. It was just like, I don't know what to do once I had the students. I know how to teach them, but everything else, I was like, I don't, how do I do this? And so then just kind of through that very first conversation where you were like, all of these things that you want, they're totally possible. Like you can do this. We can get you there. Like I will help you get there. I will like, just helping me with part of it is like, I'm really neurodivergent. And so like, I never know what to say and I never know how to phrase things. And so I was always like, Caleb, can you proofread this email before I send it? And you were like, oh, I have scripts for all of this. Like, it's just in the Google Drive. Use those. And I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. And yeah, so just, yes. And so now I feel like I've broken through that dirt, and I am a nice big plant now that is just growing and growing and growing.
It makes me so happy to hear it. The progress and the growth has been so incredible. And like you said, you had students before. The studio was established and you had really good rapport with those students. The things that we were doing with, like, again, in retrospect, really small little refinements and changes that allowed for massive growth.
Yeah.
Once they happened. And I think for a lot of studios, that tends to be the case, right? There's a couple little blocks that we're running into, whether they're like schedule or business or sometimes even just mindset. And some of those little tweaks can really turn up the dial in a way that we weren't expecting, which is so cool to see too. I love it. Maybe final question. If someone was on the cusp of this right now, like they're watching this video, trying to figure out like, is this for me? Like, is this also a fit? Do I kind of fit into the scale program? What do you wish that Elizabeth several months ago would have known about where you are now? What would have helped you either make a decision or also just feel really comfortable and confident in your own growth potential?
I think the two things are one, and I think this, you know, there's a handful of different kind of training programs out there, and it's like, and I had done one in the past where I was like, okay, is this really going to be anything new that I don't know? Is this really going to be something that can really change things around for me? And then the other part of that was like, okay, well, this is quite an investment. And when you're, you know, not making a lot of money, it's like, okay, is this where I want to invest things? Do I think this is really going to help me? And obviously, like, I've tripled my revenue. Like, the program paid for itself already, which is amazing. And you said that was going to happen. And part of me, there was like a little, like, you know, the angel and the devil, the angel on my shoulder was like, yeah, you're going to do this and it's going to be great. And it's going to be amazing. And this is actually going to happen. And the little devil on my shoulder is like, I mean, really? Like, really? And no, for real,
Yeah.
it literally did.
Mm.
And so it was so worth it in that regard. And like, I'm such a frugal person and it just like was one of those things. But then also like, you've got to invest in yourself at some point. And I invested so much in my
Mm.
education at, universities that like, I never took a business class. Never. I wish I had at this
Yeah.
point. Like, how much do I wish I had done a double major in business and music? But I didn't. And so it's
Yeah.
like I invested that much in my musical education. I can invest this same thing into my business education and my communications education and have that kind of move forward. And so some of it was like, okay, well, I'm already teaching and already doing this thing. How is this going to help me? Can it really help me? Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. And then if you put the time in and like I could have absolutely put way more into this program and like I didn't do school visits and like I work out of one high school right now, but like I haven't needed to do school visits at this point, but I know if I invest in those school visits, I'm going to be able to increase my studio and my teaching load. And I know that when I'm ready to increase in that way, I have the skill set,
Mm.
I have all the materials ready to go, I have all the contact information for all those band directors. All I have to do is just basically hit execute, and so
Yeah.
having that knowledge in my back pocket also makes me feel really good because like
Yeah.
with Caleb's position at a UC and with my adjunct work, like the university system right now is just really unstable, so like we don't know if that's going to be around 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, and knowing that I can always go back and use these strategies and reinvest that time over and over and over again, and especially knowing that like we're both academics. We could be moving a year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Knowing that even if I'm relocating, that like I can replicate this process and be fine and be more than
Yeah.
fine and flourish, and so I think that's really kind of the biggest thing is like even if you don't think you might be able to get something out of it, like trust me, you're
Mm.
gonna be able to get something out of it.
Thank you for saying that. We've talked about this before, but I've always envisioned outside the box as this like empowerment program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there's like online courses and stuff out there, and that's not really what we do. But the whole goal
Right.
is like empowerment. Like you're saying, I want you to be able to take these skills and apply them ongoing. So,
Mm-hmm.
on a personal level, for me to hear that feedback, it's like so that means so much to me. Like that's so exciting
Yay.
to like see that again, like that shift in your confidence and how your self-belief, like how you're
Mm-hmm.
picturing and understanding your own capabilities and how you can apply that going forward is just incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited for you. Thank you for sharing all of that and for sharing your journey. I think this has just been selfishly really helpful for me to hear everything. I really appreciate you sharing everything. I hope it's been helpful for other people
Yes. Oh my
listening
God. I
too.
mean,
So
I'm just
thank you so
so
much.
thankful for your help. I sing your praises to everybody, and I've had people ask me, they're like, "How are you doing this private studio thing?" And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness. Okay, well, number one, a lot of help, and B number two, there's probably a little bit of luck in there, but yeah, it
It
just
is not luck. It is skill for sure. Like
yeah,
being a fabulous teacher and teaching really excellent lessons is the foundation for any marketing and growth. So like you have that on lock, and then also that self-belief
yeah.
and building the confidence to then do a lot of that outreach and put yourself out there. That's what it is. It's not luck at all. You've put the work in. Trust me. You've put the work in for sure. Okay, last thing, and then we'll wrap up for
Okay.
today. Theoretically, if someone wanted to find you on the internet, find out more about your studio, where might they do that?
You can check my website. It's just my name, elizabethwolfreyflute.com. You can also scope out my blog that I occasionally add a blog post to, The Neurodivergent Musician, that's hosted on my website as well. I am on Instagram as Elizabeth Flute. I'm also on Blue Sky. I have no idea what my username on Blue Sky is, but you can find me there.
Oh my
Generally, if
gosh. I'm hoping for more. I'm hoping for more plant content and metaphors on the blog soon. I'm gonna be really honest. Like you ran with that earlier. I was like, this is so
I
good.
I I've,
So if you don't write something about that, I'll be disappointed.
I've got some stuff cooking. Of just how gardening has illuminated my musical practice. So,
Oh,
so
God, I
yeah.
love that. I love that so much. I need to figure out how like sourdough ties into business development. And that one, I don't know. We've got time. Anyway, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Thank you again. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Really, really excited about your story and everything you've accomplished.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for all your help. Seriously. Oh my gosh. I've escaped the scramble and life is good.
I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
I'm gonna